riding on some grown man knees. We step into some grown man knees. Conversation on some grown man knees. Put your hands up on some grown man knees. We puffing on some grown man knees. We sipping on some grown man knees. We vibing on some grown man knees. We loving on some grown man knees. I know, you know, that you're down with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is. We are in the building. Peace and blessings to you all, beautiful people. I am one half of the co-hosting team of Grown Man Conversations. And I go by the name of Tone X. There we go. Round of applause. And I'm on the solo tip tonight. I am on the solo tip tonight. Y Square, a.k.a. Ava Black, a.k.a. Chocolate Deluxe, a.k.a. Pitbull in a Skirt. She is not here. Okay? Her scheduling had a conflict in it where she couldn't be here tonight. So she threw me in the lion's den, which this ain't nothing new. Because this is like having me up in the studio for radio. So shouts out to everybody that is joining me tonight on Grown Man Conversations, the Solo Dolo podcast. And tonight we are putting the spotlight on the community, uplifting a nonprofit organization, a great brother that's doing big things in the community for the brothers who are on lockdown, the brothers who come out of lockdown. He has some incredible programs that he does for the brothers and the sisters and the families in the community. And we're going to tell you all about his program, which is called Freedom Fighting Missionaries. And we will tell you all about my man, Kenny Robinson, as soon as he gets in the building, all right? So, Yolanda, I know you're watching, okay? I know you're watching because as soon as the show is over, you're going to be ready to give some kind of critique and some feedback. And I think it's jumping off pretty good right about now. Here he come in on the phone, okay? He coming in here like Kanye, all right? He coming in here like Kanye, on the phone, all right, doing what he want to do, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I was just talking about him. I believe I just talked him up. So we were talking about tonight, we're putting the spotlight on the community, and we're talking about a non-profit organization that makes big strides in the community for the brothers and the sisters who are on lockdown upon their release, with programs to help them get an ease back in, if you will, after that ordeal. And we also have this gentleman who is going to tell you his story on how he even got to Freedom Fighting Missionaries, how it even came into existence as soon as he set up his phone. He's very meticulous, ladies and gentlemen. He's the black Elon Musk. We got Kanye and Elon Musk all in one here tonight. But you good now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's got a countdown. He got everything. Oh, this is fancy. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Kenny Robinson. What's going on, family?
I am doing well. Thank you again for having me for round 3.
Come on, man. I'm glad
you're
here.
This is our third time.
Yes, sir. Third time's a charm.
2020, 2021, and 2022. And we have some exciting news to share.
And every time you come back, it is growing. Every time you come back, more people are becoming affected by what you do. I think it's also safe to say more people are becoming infected by what you do. Before we even start off, let's do it like this. In case somebody missed part 1 and part 2, Why don't you give them the name of your nonprofit organization?
Freedom Fighting Missionaries.
Freedom Fighting Missionaries, ladies and gentlemen. And what does Freedom Fighting Missionaries do?
Well, we assist the formerly incarcerated criminal justice involved individuals, families of those who have been impacted by the criminal justice system. So started out with one plan and ended up being something else. A lot of that is due to COVID, the slaughter of George Floyd, the disparities that was unmasked because of those things. As for those who are advocates in the community and fighting for equal rights, got kind of cast into different areas, and I was one of them in Charlotte. So there are many others here that is doing equally and sometimes greater than work than we are doing. That rose up since 2020.
With most non-for-profit organizations, there's always a background story of how the organization came into existence, and it's usually through some trials, tribulations, or something that somebody within that organization, if not the founder, went through, because that was the idea. Behind Freedom Fighting Missionaries, what was it that birthed your organization, and why did you feel the need to do it?
Well, I tell this story a lot now, and I have to go to the roots.
Right.
So when I was released from federal prison myself in 2012 after serving 10 years, some of my family, my sisters, some of my cousins had moved here. I had family that was already in Charlotte.
Right.
And at the time, I was under the impression that I would move to the biggest city in North Carolina, where surely there'd be an opportunity to clean somebody's bathroom, right, or hold a flag or something, do something, right, with my background and my limited education on paper. On paper, I only completed the 9th grade and then got a GED. Limited job skills on paper. So I was coming to Charlotte with hopes that somebody would give me a job. But in fact, Charlotte, North Carolina, ranking 50 out of 50 in upward mobility for their own people, which are natives of Charlotte, was the worst place that you could be black, have a criminal background, and limited job skills. Because at that time, Charlotte did rank last in that category of moving their people forward.
Wow.
What that related to for me was program after program, nonprofit organization after nonprofit organization, 40 interviews and 40 no's in a row before I got my first.
40?
Yeah, 40. 40. Before I got my first job, and that was at a Goodwill, making minimum wage. Yeah.
Whoa.
Right, so.
I know some people right now, it's 1 or 2 or 3 no's, and they like, man, it ain't no hope.
Right.
I'm done with this.
Right.
40 no's?
And 40 interviews in a row before I got my first opportunity, and that was at a Goodwill, making minimum wage. 5 children in immediate need at that time.
How'd you feel when you got your first yes, though, after 40 no's?
I was very happy and very proud. I had never had a job before, you got to fill out the paperwork and all of that kind of stuff, and I was 33, turning 34 years old at that time.
Right.
And that was my first job where I'm going to get a paper check at. So it was fulfilling, but it would not pay the bills. Right. And again, like I said, I had 5 children, and then shortly after that, another one on the way. But, through the grace of God and the prayers from, my supporters and, the push, right? So, along with my faith, I still had to actually get up and do some things.
Right.
And, I mean, I'm talking to somebody who was a live witness to these things at that time as, I was going through those things. So, I mean, we're speaking to the audience out there, but, I mean, we knew each other at that time, and you saw, the transition.
Yes,
so
sir.
after I begged my way into a car dealership, I was able to have some measure of success there. and eventually rose up to become a finance manager. Then
Oh, you was the man at the dealership. You
Yeah.
slid from the goodwill,
Yeah,
all right, to doing goodwill
Right.
at the car dealership. And they was like, listen, we got to put him on the starting five.
right. I mean, I pushed hard and pressed hard. I mean, we went hard on the street, so I took that same mentality. So when I was in the car dealerships, right, in my mind, I was on the block with dimes, right, like when I first started. Right,
You slinging cars.
Word, trying to make every sale was my sale.
Right.
And I took it very seriously. But getting back to the journey, at some point over the years in the dealership, you know, I hit the glass ceiling, right? So, you know, I was able to become a manager, but that was going to be about it, right? You're not going to own no dealer, ain't going to be no Kenny
Right,
Robinson,
right,
BMW,
right.
or none of that, right?
Right.
And the man, you know, pretty much told me that, you know, you ought to be satisfied, come from a long way. I did. I was making, you know, a good income and able to support my family.
Right.
But there just was more inside of me. So the driving factor for me was the many brothers and sisters that were coming behind me that needed an opportunity like
Right.
I got.
Right.
And that was the biggest difference, that
Right.
I just had an opportunity, and many people with equal talents or greater than mine, they just needed that. So in 2019, I retired from the car dealership, and in 2020 launched Freedom Fighting Missionaries.
Freedom Fighting Missionaries.
Right, with the mind to give back to those that in the community who experienced what I experienced. And the journey from there, again, as you have seen, and you know, many of the people that may be watching have seen, we took our lived experience.
Right.
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 We learned all of the places in Charlotte not to go to.
Right.
Right. Well, they ain't gonna help you there.
Right.
So it ain't even no sense in going there. That, and then like I said, coupled with COVID and the slaughter of George Floyd, was driving us. Right. It became more known in the community that those who have a criminal background in Charlotte have a tough and hard way to go in every area.
Right.
So we talking about basic needs, right? Coming out of jail or coming out of prison, like you need your identification,
Right.
right? Immediate health care,
Right.
Then, you know, on to employment, staffing, readiness, employment etiquette. See, remember me, I was 34 before I had my
Had your
first
first
job,
job.
right? So you got to know how to act that word.
Right.
Can't look at her that way. You can't do this, can't do that. You
Can't
know, it's
say that.
Can't say certain things. It's a certain type of behavior that you know, and it's learned behavior. Like somebody
Right.
have to teach you that.
Right.
You don't just know that.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because you said basic needs, and a lot of times when people hear about basic needs, it's what we do. We think about toiletries
Nah.
and things like that. That's not even what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about is things like you're gonna need to know how to operate this smartphone.
Right.
Right. Because it wasn't that.
When you got it.
Right. Or the technology changed.
Right.
Right. And now people are saying you're gonna have to go online and fill out that application.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna have to go online and like schedule just to go to the DMV to get your identification. Right. So these are the things that we knew that a person needed, and these are the things that we used to develop the program. And after employment became housing. So from 2020 up until now, of course, self-funded in 2020, right? No grants and none of those things available to a new organization. Then you black-led, then you formerly incarcerated, wanting to help people getting out of jail, right? So just
Right.
little resources available for that. So we self-funded. We were able to assist around 57 individuals in 2020.
Whoa.
Many of them getting dropped off over there at the shelter by their probation officer, right, who would just speed away.
Right.
Right, and they went into the shelter and came out with a tent, a mask, and a little bottle of sanitizer. Right, and some of the people in the tent city would tell them, "Oh, you got out of prison, then maybe you should try Freedom Fighters." And we did the best that we could do in 2020 putting individuals in hotels and whatever we had to do. Right. So we ended up raising around $178,000 that year, assisting those 57 individuals.
On that.
Yeah, which pushed us onward into 2021, where we turned our attention away from the local government, right, from the banks and the foundations and the places that you would expect that will provide support to those that's trying to help the community. And we focused our attention on the healthcare field, right, specifically behavioral healthcare field, because there's a similar transition in healthcare to church and reentry, right? And that's that a transition has to take place. If you go in the hospital with 2 legs and come out with 1, right, you're going to have to go through a transition. Somebody's going to have to help you with that, right. And somebody's going to be assigned to do that. You can still work, but now only a certain kind of job, right? And that is what we explained to the healthcare field, who gave me an opportunity to present to the executive board. And I presented to them that if you black, you have a criminal background, and you're a native of Charlotte, like from Charlotte, that in fact you have a disability, right? And that disability is equivalent to a blind man. The difference is that the blind man have somewhere to go. He can go to the place for the blind, and they'll help him there. But a person exiting prison and being returned to Charlotte with, no immediate address and support system doesn't have anywhere to go. They heard, though, that cry, right? Because that's what it was, a cry. And we received our first grant from the behavioral healthcare system, and that was for $100,000. Which allowed me to then hire a staff member, do some more fundraising, do this back end stuff. You got to have QuickBooks and accountant, like you got to do all your paperwork. Right. And that gave us the jump that we needed, while being able to provide positive education and information around the vaccine and COVID-19. And in 2021. From our own fundraising efforts and from the grant support that we did receive, we were able to assist around 157 individuals that year. Wow. With 12 of them going into, from complete homelessness going into permanent housing.
That's a big deal, man. That's a big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, we are talking to Kenny Robinson, founder of Freedom Fighting Missionaries, a nonprofit organization that helps the incarcerated, when they get out, get back on their feet. There's a lot of people that's not incarcerated that need to get back on your feet. But this young man is a plethora of information. If you need to get in contact with him, if you know someone in your family, because we all do, who may be incarcerated, if you call it summer camp, if you call it college, whatever you call it, if you know someone, male or female, and they'll be coming out. That process of coming out and getting back into quote-unquote society is more easier said than done. There's some people that's not even incarcerated, never been incarcerated, and you can't get yourself back in society, and that's just day to day. And I heard you say one of the things when you said when someone comes out from being incarcerated, trying to get a job and trying to get back in is a great task. And you talk about how hard it is. It's hard for a lot of black men that don't have that plight.
That's right.
And that story to get a job. So I can imagine what it's like for those individuals. And then you're talking about a self-esteem thing too, because it starts to be like nobody wants to even give me a chance.
Right. And these things have a great impact on one's mental health, and that is why that is an area of focus for us. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that it's a struggle even for a lot of us, even if you don't have a criminal background, right, and you never have been to prison. So in this work that we have been doing, it allowed us, right, our organization, to advocate for those things, which include not only just black men, but the disparities between income and progress for women. That again, so where you speak about, I know it's tough for a brother and he got a background,
Right.
It's tough for a woman and she's black, right? So these are things that we learned, more about as we was doing this work,
Right.
because we were running this. A lot of black women in Charlotte who are in positions that if they was just a black man, they'd be making more, right? So, and if they were a white man, they'd be making sometimes twice as more, right? So these are things that we began to advocate for as we were doing the work with assisting those with a background. And through that advocacy, I was able to join the Continuum of Care Board here in Charlotte, which is a homelessness board that focuses on the funds that are received from the federal and the state government and who they're going to be allocated to and why. And I was also able to join the Mecklenburg County COVID-19 Task Force and the Equity and Inclusion Committee, where recently I have been raised up to chairperson of the Equity and Inclusion Committee.
Okay.
So we advocate for not only those who have a criminal background, but racial and gender disparities, as well as the LGBT community, with the focus on the black trans that are here in Charlotte,
Right.
which is the most vulnerable population that exists in the country, and it's very tough in Charlotte, where the average lifespan is around 33 years, and they die from either murder or suicide.
That's a whole different topic.
Whole different topic, but these are things that we are addressing and unmasking as we are doing the work that we are doing, as well as advocate for the needs of small black businesses to have the equity that they deserve.
Man, listen, we're giving it up tonight. We're putting the spotlight on the community, people in the community, businesses that you may have missed. This gentleman right here is one of our favorite people on the planet. He's one of my favorite people on the planet. Facts. This is his third time making his appearance on the show. And this is Kenny Robinson. We're talking about Freedom Fighting Missionaries, his nonprofit group that does a lot. I've seen it in action. I've been to some of the fundraisers. I've watched him receive awards. I've watched him get grants. I've seen him team up with some builders and build homes for these single families that get out. This is what I've seen. This isn't what I've heard. This is what I've seen. So I encourage you to stay with me here on Grown Man Conversations, being presented by my good folk over at Silver Shield Security. All right? Silver Shield Security, not just a minority-owned business, a black female-owned business security company. If you have an apartment, if you have a business, if you have a home, I would highly suggest to you to take a look at Silver Shield Security and get that peace of mind that we all want when we leave our family at home, or when we leave at home our business or our apartments on a daily basis. SilverShield-Security.com. SilverShield-Security.com. Use my promo code #ToneXKenny. You can get 50% off your installation if you use my promo code #ToneX. You get 50% off your installation. And shouts out to the good people that we have partnered up with called Cashbox. All right, bringing you this incredible episode of Grown Man Conversations, the visual podcast. And if you're looking on the screen and you don't see her, she is not here. We don't have a hologram for her or nothing like that. Her scheduling, okay, she had a conflict of scheduling and she couldn't be here tonight. So I'm holding it down for Y Square, who I know is somewhere looking and taking down notes. That's why I have my headphones on, Kenny, because I wanted to make sure everything was right. I'm hearing some echo though. Anybody out there listening? My Instagram family, my Facebook family. Anybody hear echo out there? Because I ain't gonna let this be my debut without Yolanda, and then okay, that'll be a setup right there. I'll be like, oh, okay, I see what she did. I see what she did. Let's talk about how you provide, and you're working on providing more housing for a lot of families, single families that were incarcerated and they come out and they need, well, they don't just need somewhere to stay. They need a home where they can be with their family, they can go to work, they can come home, they can feel good about it. Plus, I remember that day I was out there and I was looking at the families and they had the look on their face like this was something that a couple of years ago they never would have thought that they could achieve.
That's right. Again, in this work, we fought hard to be able to provide individuals with identifications and partner with Just Do It movement, so that's out the way. We partner with Caring and Novine Health Michael Jordan clinics to be able to provide dignified health care to those that we serve. We partner with Erica's Closet for employment services, and then onward to housing. So we have been working diligently in the housing space, fought all the way to Washington, D.C., to HUD, begging them to consider us, the population that we serve, for housing vouchers that were being issued out due to COVID. Had never been done before in Mecklenburg County, right? One reason to not get a Section 8 voucher or housing choice voucher is to have a criminal background. And in fact, nobody that lived in your unit could have one.
Wow.
Right? And we advocated up to HUD, and we were awarded 18 emergency housing vouchers to start with. So we used that platform, pushed hard, working with landlords, working with the city, working with the county, to be able to provide a way for housing for the individuals that we serve. It is an ongoing battle, but we have some traction going. Like you said, a development was built, landlords started coming on and supporting us. We are in the works right now for 2 different housing developments. We have fought and advocated to the city of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County to do something about the source of income discrimination. Right? I've used my voice in our platform to do news stories out in the field, working with landlords, working with the tenants, working with different organizations to collaborate, to provide that supportive services along with the housing. So, I mean, you just can't scoop a person off of the street and stick them into an apartment or into a house and leave them there, right? There have to be some supportive services around it so that person can have an opportunity to move forward. So we have been working very hard in the housing space. And time and history, right, will show the beginnings of those things as they grow and they are growing.
When you help an individual, when you help a family, it seems that that's the start, that's the beginning of a long-lasting relationship, because I'm sure there are families and individuals who still talk to you, who still have you pour into them, but still thank you for the opportunity that you and your organization do. I'm sure it's not just a one-time deal. You see them, you help them, and then you're out, because you're not even that kind of person.
Right. And beyond, the mother or the father, right? The children, right? That is what is most fulfilling, right? The children who never had their room before, right? And a lot of us, when we grew up like that, right? 2-bedroom house, and all your cousins is there, and you there, and but that's different than what's in the car, right? And taking a wash up in the Walmart and going to school from there.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
To now being into your own apartment, townhouse, or house and having your own room fully furnished and, and ready to go. Right. And we're talking about youth that's between the ages of, newborn on up. Right. So you take a 10-year, 11-year-old child, like they're never going to forget where they started at. Right, they're never going to forget that apartment that they had over on such and such street.
Right.
And mama was able to get a better job, and they were able to get to a better school. Right, so these things are happening right now. Right, they've already happened with families who were in the shelter, in their car, on their cousin's couch, right, with their children, who are now in housing and are moving forward, and not looking back. So again, that's the most fulfilling part, right? The children that are able to have their own and experience a different way of life.
They're going to remember that too.
Yeah.
Them kids going to remember that. It's something they're going to grow up with. There's somebody that's listening now and they're saying, okay, how can I reach him? How can I get in contact with him? Even if I just have some questions for him. Give him your social media, give him your contact info.
So we are everywhere at Freedom Fighting Missionaries. So on Facebook, that's Freedom Fighting Missionaries. On Instagram, Freedom Fighting Missionaries. On Twitter, Freedom Fighting Missionaries. On TikTok, Freedom Fighting Missionaries.
Not TikTok.
On TikTok, we have a growing platform on TikTok. And TikTok is a tough crowd if you ain't dancing or twerking.
Come on, man. I was just going to say, what y'all on there doing?
So that's a tough crowd. But when you are saying something that's purposeful, meaningful. So we've actually had a sister, right? She said, I found you on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she
That's
said,
the
I
power of
just
social
typed
media.
in, yeah, she said, I typed in like housing in Charlotte, right? Affordable housing in Charlotte, and your videos came up, right? And 5 months later, she's in her own apartment working 2 jobs and doing well, and she met us through TikTok. So we are on all social media platforms, LinkedIn. You can just Google Freedom Fighting Missionaries at this point, and, and we'll come up. Our website is www.freedomfightingmissionaries.org.com.biz. Right, so I've got all of them, so you can't miss. Got them all covered, so you can't miss us, even if you make a mistake.
You got them covered, family. Freedom Fighting Missionaries on all platforms. Make sure you go follow them. If you have questions, reach out to my man Kenny Robinson. Ask your questions. There are no dumb questions. It does not exist, and a lot of times we don't know the information. Right. So I always tell you, information is the new currency. And he has a plethora of information. And you know he ain't playing because he got on his Black Panther hoodie. So he came in here on his Wakanda Forever energy.
Right.
All right, he bringing that vibranium to the city, man. So it is Grown Man Conversations, a visual podcast. We are in the building tonight talking to my guy, my man, 50 Grand, Kenny Robinson. We're talking about his nonprofit organization, Freedom Fighting Missionaries, and the great things that they do, not just in the city, outside the city, in the state. They do big things for the ones who a lot of times they get forgotten, but he doesn't forget about them. I remember when I used to be on the radio, and I would always shout out brothers that were on lockdown. And I remember they asked me one day, they were like, why do you shout out the people that's on lockdown? And the people from the radio was like, we don't want it to look like people on lockdown or any kind of celebrities or they're getting I said, let me tell you something. You've never been locked up. So for you to send a shout out to them just lets them know that we ain't forgot about them.
Right.
And some of them ain't getting no mail. So some of them ain't getting their name called at mail call.
That's right.
So if they can get their name called on radio, or if I could talk to them, or they could write a letter or whatever, that's a big deal.
That's right.
And you can't forget about it, because in this country, boy, you could be 2 checks or 1 bad move away from needing freedom fighting missionaries for yourself.
That's right.
So we never forget about the brothers or the sisters that are on lockdown.
I'm glad you brought that up, because another true story, right? When you were still on the radio and doing what you just said that you did, right? A sister heard you on there, right, talking about the work that and this wasn't like a paid ad.
Right.
This is you giving a shout out, like you just said you did, right? And if anybody need any, services in that way. And the sister had a son who was just coming home from prison after 7 years, right? He went in when he was 17 and he was now 24 and coming out of prison, right? And she contacted me and said, I heard you on the Tone Next radio show. And my son, right, needs some help, and can you help him? Right? That's been almost 2 years ago. The young brother is working. He's been working since then. We helped him with a job. He just got his own crib, got a car in his name. Right? We showed him everything he needed to know about using the phone. Had never had no credit, right? So we got his credit built up. He went right in the dealership, bought him a car, and he is doing well. Under no circumstances whatsoever would he himself knew how to contact us. If his mother had not heard you on the radio, then he would have never been connected with us. That is a true story and a testament to what you just said.
You always been doing such great work. Like, everybody's not going to take on the task of helping individuals who were formerly incarcerated, even if they were. So it has to be something that you love to do. And you have to love people, but it's a special type of people that you have to love. And it's you looking in the mirror, because you can see yourself, I'm sure, in each individual, in each family that seeks you out. That's right. Through that program. So, man, it's always love. When I see what you're doing, when I see something else going on, it's always love. And when people ask me, do I know anybody or do I know any programs or anything like that, you be the first name, the only name that I throw out there, because I see what you do. You know what I mean? How many years is this for your organization?
We are going on 3 years.
3 years. Give them the horn for 3. 3 years, which is a big deal. Y'all need to have an anniversary.
Yeah, so we actually have a major event coming up.
I need to host it.
December the 6th. You got that right. Yes, you did. You got that right. So, yeah, you're right. We started in 2020, self-funded. Last year, did the best that we could do. We raised probably close to around $400,000. And this year, we have an operating budget of around $1.5 million.
Whoa!
From the time that we started.
That's different. That's different. That's a hell of a meme right there. How it started, how it's going.
Right,
okay.
Right. So that is exactly how it's going. And we are pushing in every way that we can.
Nice. Using
our voice in every way that we can. Got to give a shout out to my staff.
Yeah.
So we now have a paid staff, 6 of us.
Okay.
Right. So it's not just me. So thankful to my staff who
right.
was in the trenches, right, were working for free.
Teamwork,
right,
just
doing the work because this is something that they were passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And we are thankful that we have been able to now get those individuals on the payroll.
Nice.
Which, all of them are impacted by the criminal justice system. Right, so 2 of them are former clients that hung in there with us, right, and went on a journey with us while we were trying to help them secure all the things that we do.
Dope.
And they became so knowledgeable about the journey that we had to hire them.
Had to give them.
Right, so they now working with us. We have a diverse staff of men and women.
Okay.
Racially diverse.
Yeah.
We have 2 two white women that work with us and for us and push just as hard as we do. So I have to give them a shout out.
Give them a shout out, man.
So shout out to our staff, Tiffany, and Jasmine, and Ashley, and Jennifer, and Adriana. She's our one bilingual staff.
Oh, I can tell by the names who is who.
Yeah.
Okay, baby. All you got to do is say the names, and I can tell you exactly who is who. I do Adriana with the Kobatayama.
Yeah.
I do that.
And then my man, Katie Harrison, is always available to help us do whatever that we need to do. So thankful to my staff. And yes, we do have a big event coming up on December the 6th.
Okay.
It is a photo documentary.
Okay.
Photo doc is already done and complete. And what it does is highlight, honor 17 of our top supporters, our top underground supporters. The name of the artistic exhibit, right? The name of it is the Underground Railroad of Reentry. Right? And it highlights those who have supported us in the underground capacity because their organizations just simply didn't have a way, right? They wanted to help with the jobs and companies they had, they just didn't have a way. So many of those individuals personally contributed where they didn't have finances to help us, then they offered their mentorship, right, their expertise, their networks, right, as we were fundraising. So we're going to be honoring those 17 individuals in the photo documentary. We have a award-winning singer. Our theme song is by a sister named Jerica. The name of the song is Running Home. That's the Freedom Fighting Missionaries theme song.
All right.
So she is flying in from Louisiana to perform it live at our event. So the event, fundraiser, and photo documentary. Just to give you an idea of some of the individuals that are part of this documentary. Yeah. You have, I'll give you a few.
Right, don't give it all.
No, I can't give it all. So, you have the head sheriff, Gary McFadden.
All right.
You have the head district attorney, first black sheriff, first black district attorney, Spencer Merriweather, a few county commissioners, a few bankers, and then the list go on from there. Again, after the unveiling and the event on December the 6th, this photo documentary through a Arts Council grant with the city of Charlotte will be on display for a week at a museum for the public to see free. But the Mint Museum Uptown has contributed and offered their space to us at a highly discounted rate, so we can have the first event there.
Come on, man. That's dope.
Yeah, so the photo documentary will be at the Mint Museum Uptown December the 6th from 6 to 8:30.
So the photo documentary, that's a big deal. December 6th. The only thing left for you is a film documentary on freedom fighting missionaries, man.
And I was telling my staff, and we've turned down two, right? Because I just simply couldn't be away for that amount of time.
Right.
So we've turned down two documentaries from two A&E and from Bravo because we just simply didn't have I just didn't have the time to do it in place of the sister or the brother in their car that's trying to move forward. So I ain't gonna run the TV and leave the people behind. So the time will come for that. And I was telling my staff, I said, man, we done been doing so much now that we'd have to have a series, right? We couldn't even just do one show.
Y'all making serious moves. You know, you should feel proud of yourself and helping a lot of people. And shout out to your staff, too, for being diverse. I remember I was at an event, and the white girl came up to me, and she was like, Kenny said for you to come over here. And I was like, who are you? And she was like, I'm with Freedom Fighting Missionary. And I said, Mama, which kind of freedom fighting missionaries are you with? Is what I want to know. And the kid was like, oh, yeah, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. I was like, all right, then. Go ahead on. Underground Railroad, help them out. But, yeah, it was dope, man. It was dope. Dope things going on over here on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. My man Chocolate O listening in from the ATL. He said it sounded good. He said he didn't hear echo. I thought I heard one in my headphones, and I don't need no flack coming from Y Square. When I talk to her tonight, I want to feel good about what I did here tonight on the Solo Dolo edition, because she got me here by myself. They say teamwork makes the dream work, but you know, I'm here in the night like LeBron, trying to make the whole thing better, make everybody around me better, and we getting it in. I see you got you some Gatorade. I had bought you a little something.
Well, we need to get to that. Let me put that.
I saw you come with your Gatorade. I say, he healthy tonight.
Because you know how.
I don't want to mess nothing up.
Nah. You know
in honor of your diverse staff.
Yes, please do. And then I have one more major shout out.
What was the number of how many individuals you've helped so far?
So 57 in 2020, 157. Last year we'll go over 200 this year.
Look at the growth though.
Yeah.
57 in 1 year. 157. Right. To going over 200.
Over 200 this year.
Look at the growth. That must mean you're doing something right.
Yeah, and it should be, by the time the end of the year comes, we should be at about 24 housed. And I'm telling you, that is the toughest thing to do in Charlotte, North Carolina, is to get an individual who were homeless into housing. So,
there you go, sir.
Major shout out to my children.
Oh yeah, you better shout out.
Right. So
stop playing, man.
There are 7 of them that have been great sacrifice, right? Because in this work, I'm way a lot. I'm on the phone 24/7 or on the laptop, busy doing the work. They have been very supportive of the work, having lived it, right? They had their own lived experience with the time that I was away and the transition since I've been out, and they have been very supportive. To my 9 grandchildren.
Oh, wait a minute. How many?
9. So I have 7 children and I have 9 grandchildren. Ooh. And they have all been so very supportive in this work with me. Shout out to my road dog daughter, Kenna.
Yeah.
Who is now 9 years old, and she is with me. So we're, little girls her age are cheerleading and, doing other events. She chooses to be with us out in the community, doing the work. So if you go to our page and you go on our website, you will see her there. Right. She can speak to the work just as good as I can of what we do, what we have done, what we aim to do.
She can see what Daddy's doing too.
Right. So when somebody asked her, like they were talking about the money, right, from the lottery, it's up, $1 billion. Right. They said, "What you gonna do with all that money, Ken, if you hit?" Right. She said, "Well, I'm going to buy houses for all of the homeless people in Charlotte." Right. So this is where her mind is at 9 years old, from seeing us work and being out there in the community with us.
Right.
So shout out to Kenna for
and
riding
with
over
me. $1 billion too.
Yeah.
Just in case you wanted to know, man. And shouts out to my nephew Ryan, Joy L, and Black Fathers Rock. Here is an example of Black Fathers rocking, and Black Fathers do exist. Sometimes they try to make the Black Father like dinosaur, like he extinct, like the Loch Ness Monster, like you hear stories about him. Some people said they seen him, some photographs, but you think it's Photoshop, but ain't nobody never really seen him. We are here, we are out here, and we're trying to do good things. We're trying, and we are doing good things for our families, for the community. It is all good in the hood. Believe you me when I tell you that, especially when you got people like this, Kenny Robinson, all right, and freedom fighting missionaries, just helping one of the lesser populations that society tends to turn a deaf ear to and turn a blind eye on, and that is the incarcerated population of this country and this city and this county, both males and females. What else do you have coming up for freedom fighting missionaries?
So I'm glad that you asked, because
Yes, sir.
the last point that I want to touch on is our voting rights. Right. So that has been a strong push. I voted for the first time in the 2016 elections.
For the first
For
time.
the first time, that was such a struggle and such a journey at that time for me to earn my voting rights back, right? So I got out of prison in 2012. Right? I was on 3 years of supervised release, so I had to complete that. Right? Even though I was out, I had to complete my supervised release before I became eligible to vote. Right?
Wow.
I had to then go down to the county courthouse and file some paperwork to get my voting rights restored. It was such a process that I wrote a letter to the president, who was Barack Obama at the time.
What?
Right, telling him of all of the struggle that I had to go through to get my right to vote back. And the president, he wrote me back.
Straight up.
He wrote me back, right? And I have that in the frame on my wall.
As
right?
you should.
Personal letter to me. From that day forward, right, I vowed to fight also for the voting rights. So recently, the North Carolina State Court of Appeals overturned a decision that immediately gave the voting rights back to 55,000 people across the state of North Carolina who were like me on some type of community supervision, parole, or probation. They on the street, they free, but they got probation or something. I mean, you wasn't allowed to vote until that was complete. So the Court of Appeals struck that down, and that immediately made 55,000 people eligible to vote. So we have been trying to register as many of those brothers and sisters as possible to get them to the polls, right, and be able to exercise that right to vote that brothers died for, right? And the good brother John Lewis told a lot of us across the country before he left, get out there and register as many as you. If you want to have some power, you want to get some things done, get as many people registered to vote as you can and take them to the polls. You want to be a threat, you want to get the services and resources that your organization needs, get them to the polls, right? Where you can vote somebody in that come from where you come from. Nobody never said you couldn't be an elected official with a background. Who told you you couldn't?
Right.
You can.
Right.
So if you want to make some positive impact, do that. And that is something that we have been fighting for. So now that 55,000 people are eligible to vote, we're in the midst of a major election, right? So now the politicians are calling me, right? Because they want to talk to our people now.
Right.
So now you want to talk to our people, so now we can tell you what we need, right? And what resources that we need.
Need some tangibles.
As we develop a caucus, right, of people who are formerly incarcerated and people who have had the background. So now we're one of the groups now that you have to speak to us, because there's enough of us to flip a local election.
Exactly.
Right, to impact a Senate race.
Strengthen numbers.
But there's enough of us to do that in the state of North Carolina now, right? Because nobody's going to win by 30 or 40,000 votes, right? So we know exactly how many people are eligible to vote, who they are, where they're at, and we've been trying to register as many of them as possible. So watch these local elections closely. Watch this Senate race closely, and if there's a win by 400 or 500 votes, then we can say yes, that is the formerly incarcerated vote.
That was the force.
That pushed that person over the edge. Yep, so that's what our main focus now is on voting, since we have the right to vote. So when I went to early vote, I never saw this before. Nobody else did neither, because it just never was on the ballot.
Right.
So now it's on there, and it specifically says, if you are not in jail or prison for a felony conviction, then you can vote, right? So the only way that you can't vote, and it says it on the ballot, is if you are like in jail or in prison for a felony conviction. If you are on the street and you on probation or parole, or you got a heavy record, doesn't matter what it's for, and you just think you can't vote, you can vote, right? And with that vote is some power. Now, as you know, things shift in politics, one vote is powerful. I told one of the county commissioners, I said, you can't look at me as one vote, because this is me in my house.
Mm-hmm.
This is me and my followers on social media, right? This is me and all of the brothers and sisters who never voted before, but would vote if they knew how the process went. So when you look at me, don't look at me as one vote, look at me as 1,000. Right. Because that's the impact that
that's a movement
that we have, and that is a movement.
That's a How did it make you feel when you voted for the first time?
I felt like I was a more complete man, right? Because you've been stripped away of something when you lose your right to vote, right? They say, well, you're less than a man, right? You're less than a person.
Right.
You can't even vote. So the politicians, right, they're not even talking to you, right? When they saying what they're going to try to do and what their plan is, they're not even talking to the person who can't vote. Right, because what politicians don't do, right, they don't go to an elementary school and talk to the children, right, about voting during election time, because they know they can't vote, right? They no sense in pitching to them, right. And the same thing like with people who had the background in the past, no sense in even talking to you. Right. You can't vote. I'm over here talking to the people who can vote, who could actually get me into office. And now that that's erased in the state of North Carolina, we will get some things that we won't get what we want. We won't get 400 years worth, right? But we'll get something that we never had before. And that's a right to get to that ballot box and say, this is the person that I'm voting for. And I'm going to hold him to what he said, right? Because I voted for you. We never had that before, and we have it now.
Like my man Tariq Nasheed always talk about, black people wanting and needing to get tangibles for our votes. Not just promises, not just what he calls catfish nuggets and butter biscuits. We need some tangibles. And when you start talking about strength in numbers, you can make that happen. Because that's a big deal. And that's why I wanted to ask you how you felt. And a lot of people take that for granted. Some people don't, and it's like Bobby Brown says, your prerogative. Right. It's your right, but it's different when you haven't been allowed or able to do something.
Sure.
And you finally come into being able to do it, and what seems like nothing to the majority of the people is a huge deal, an ordeal for somebody like you who can go and vote. So listen, man, we salute you. This is why he's been on here 3 times, ladies and gentlemen. Every time he comes, he brings more information, not just about what his organization is doing, not just what they're trying to do for the incarcerated and newly released, but everything that's going on in the world of politics as it relates to that plethora, and that's a Scrabble word because I play, plethora of knowledge this gentleman has. You should make sure that you follow him on social media. Please, if you have any questions, because I know plenty of cats locked up right now. My nephews and some of my nieces' pieces too. Shouts out to my girl Tijuana Brown, Beauty, after the bars.
That's right.
I know plenty. And when they ask or they need resources, that's the only person I can go to. And he's got a proven track record. So if that's somebody in your family, all right, hell, if it's you done snuck a radio in the day room and they hadn't caught you yet, but you listening to grown man conversations. That's why I appreciate you. That's why I appreciate you. Go ahead and cut it off and hide it before they take it, tear your ass up in there. Because you know you ain't supposed to have it. So listen, shouts out to Cashbox, moving money made simple. And we definitely have to shout out Silver Shield Security. Silver Shield Security, ladies and gentlemen, competing with some of the major security companies that we will not name, but I'm sure that you know. This is a black female, black-owned business. She's doing her thing. Technology is great. Look at it through the phone, camera set up throughout the house. And right now, because she's celebrating her 10-year anniversary over at Silver Shield Security, if you go to the website and you use my promo code, #ToneX, you get 50%, half off of your installation service fees. 50% off just by using #ToneX. She has the best customer service on the planet when it comes to what she does. So if you have an apartment, if you have a business, if you have a home, you want that peace of mind like I have, then you make sure that you get in contact with Silver Shield Security. SilverShield-Security.com. SilverShield-Security.com. Grown Fit Wear, new colors, new inventory. The Grown Fit varsity jackets are coming, and they are going to shut it down for the fall. So go to GrownFitWear.com. The relaunch, in the words of my man Uncle Clifford from P Valley, the relaunch of the book Grown Man Tips is coming up. All right, so make sure that you keep your eyes and your ears open for that. And before we get up out of here, I got to tell you about something that Kenny Robb is going to beat to. Because every year, his schedule always got something going on. But he always makes it out to the birthday comedy show. And we celebrate another trip around the sun. So it's November, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It's Scorpio season, ladies and gentlemen. And so you know Thursday, November 17th, it starts 8 p.m. It is my birthday comedy roast.
And we will be celebrating together this year. My birthday is November the 15th.
Oh! You see what we're doing?
We will be celebrating our birthday together at Stats this year.
It's going to be dope. I'm going to need you to go to ysprosent.com, ladies and gentlemen. ysprosent.com. Get your tickets. Get your VIP tickets. VIP are moving fast. All right? That's not a sales pitch. That's what it is. Make sure that you go to ysprosent.com. I got some heavy hitters that's going to be roasting me on my birthday. I got Ryan Davis. I got Rodney Perry, Hank Denson, Sean Jones. I got Cousin Clyde. I got Coco Fresh. Burpee is the roast master. It's going down, but just remember, after all of them finish, I get the last word. So it's going down Thursday, November 17th, my birthday. Scorpio Comedy Roast. They roasted me. You don't want to miss that. Make sure you're in the building, ysprosent.com. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to bring us, like Boys to Men say, to the end of the road. All right? Make sure that you follow Freedom Fighting Missionaries on all social media. Any questions that you have, contact my man Kenny Robinson. Always a pleasure, man.
Thank you.
It's always sweet when the players meet, man.
Thank you so much.
And I'm proud of you and what you're doing. You know my 2 words for you. Keep going.
That's right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yolanda, that was pretty nice, right? Okay, so now what I have to do as flawlessly as possible, I have to ease out the end of the show. All right? Now I'm going to see if I can do it. Okay? I'm going to see if I can do it. What I have to do is I have to hit this.
Up on some grown man knees. We puffin' on some grown man knees. We sippin' on some grown man knees. We vibin' on some grown man knees. We lovin' on some grown man knees. I know, you know, that you're down with me. We on some grown man knees. We step into some grown man